Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are the Batman. I'm Mike.
And this is Matthew.
We got a lot of news to get through because per the usual, we already had an episode prepped and planned. And then late last night on Twitter, DC and Warner Brothers was just kind of like, let's flood the feed and make everybody have to record new shit at the last minute. So thanks, Warner Brothers. You're the best. People will sing songs about you in the years to come.
hopefully
So
who knows?
frustrating, man. So the first one that kind of got this thing going was that it had come out that they were no longer going to be moving forward with the animated series Batman the Caped Crusader at HBO Max. Now I do want to go ahead and right away say the show itself has not been canceled. They are simply shopping it around to other streaming services other than HBO Max. Why? I don't know. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, considering that this is where all the DC stuff lives, is on HBO Max. But this is what they're going for. You actually sent me a screenshot that was a little troublesome as well, Matt.
Yeah. It's just that whole. It just makes me think like, HBO Max is done.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, either that or I didn't even think about this right now. Maybe they're randomly bringing back DC Universe. I don't know why they would do that.
I don't know why either. That was such a failure.
I mean, yeah, but that's where, I just don't even know. It just sounds like HBO Max is done. That's what it really sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Or they're moving away from DC stuff. That's
maybe they just want to make it. I don't know. It's hard to say because we're going to get to this in a little bit. There's other stuff they're going forward with on HBO Max. It makes me go, why is this the thing you're putting your time and energy into?
Yeah.
But no, the screenshot you shared with me was that, they announced this whole thing with the show. Well, Diedrich Bader is, I guess, part of the show, and he replied to the post on Twitter, well, crap, I'm on this. Hell of a way to find out. Because the way it was originally being announced was that they were acting like it was straight up just canceled.
Yes. And then it was shopped. But I think also, like, Diedrich Bader has been in, like, a ton of the DC film, animated stuff. Like, of course, he was Batman and Brave and the Bold, but he's played Guy Gardner in one of the versions. He's played characters all over the place.
Well, and he's Batman on the Harley Quinn show.
Yeah, and he was Batman in some of the DVD releases that they've done over the last couple of years. So it seems odd that he is. I mean, I know Bruce Timm is part of this.
That was kind of everyone's big draw, was like, we're getting the band back together.
But they haven't said if Kevin Conroy's in it, have they?
No, they have not. No.
Okay.
This is the first anybody knew that Diedrich Bader was a part of it.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see if he's playing somebody else or if he's coming back as Batman.
Yeah, I don't know, because they announced this show at last year's DC Fandom, and since then everyone's kind of been waiting to hear more about it. Because it was, from the look of it, like they were going with the design of like the original Batman. Like it was just going to be just a very straightforward classic Batman stories done by Bruce Timm. So everyone was just kind of like, ooh, goody. That sounds like my cup of tea. But now, I mean, we don't know. Very little is even known about the show.
Now, the more news that happens, and maybe it'll even cement it, some of the stuff you're about to tell me, because I missed Twitter last night, is I just think Warner Brothers Discovery is done with DC. Like that's all this keeps telling me, is that they're like, we're done. We don't want anything to do with it. We don't want the cartoon. We don't want the content on our thing. Maybe HBO Max is not going to be going away, but I think that they're just like, DC's done. Like I would be surprised if in the next year Warner Brothers sells DC.
Well, and that's going to get into some of the stuff we're going to get into in a little bit. The next thing I wanted to bring up was that so one of the directors of Batgirl, Bilal Fallah, said that he had gone to try and salvage some of the Batgirl footage, but when he went and logged on to whatever their system is, the footage had already been removed. it was
Yeah,
deleted.
I don't think somebody doesn't want to do Deadpool.
Somebody doesn't want to do Deadpool. Somebody doesn't want a Snyder cut thing to happen again. But I was also reading on another thing. I think it was from Deadline, where they had said that because of the reason that they're canceling Batgirl, which is because of a tax credit, that they may have like not had a choice but to destroy it, like to appease the IRS.
Yeah.
That hasn't been confirmed, but other people, there's a couple of folks have weighed in and said like that wouldn't be the first time something like that has happened, where something has been canceled like this for tax purposes, and the IRS says like we need to know that like this is not going to see the light of day, and a lot of times that means they want to see it quote unquote destroyed. So odds are they may have had to purge the files out of the system to basically say like to finish up whatever they got to do to get their tax credit.
Yeah. And dude, I mean, as much as it sucks, like, yeah, that's business. If that's what they have to do, that's what they have to do. And it, you know, I don't know how as a director you don't keep stuff yourself, but
Well, I also don't know what they're allowed. Like, maybe he
yeah,
was just trying to go in there and just, pull some guerrilla tactics and get it before he lost it. It's really hard to say.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, if that's what the IRS tells you to do, you do what the IRS tells you to do. But it still sucks.
yeah, yeah. It's especially as a creative not knowing what's happening and then to go in and be like, oh, that's gone. I mean,
Yeah.
there was one of the last films I did, and it was the first time we did digital, and we were like 75% done with the movie, and the guy's raid crashed. And we had to
Oh,
finish the film not knowing if the original footage was ever going to be available again. And so that was just a nightmare. So I can't even imagine like being almost done and like, well, maybe I could do this. And you go back and it's disappeared.
well, it brings up another question because so the Hollywood Reporter released this, which I don't always love the Hollywood Reporter. I think they get a little scoop happy sometimes, but there were reports going around that someone had salvaged a copy of what of the film as far as it was done, and supposedly are holding quote unquote funeral screenings for it on the Warner Brothers lot this week. Um, I don't know how true that is, because this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter, which has been glorified fish wrap for me in the last few years. Um, but I just, yeah, again, that I think this is a testament to like if this is true, it's like, man, it's almost like people wanted to see the movie they'd been working on for over a year.
Yeah. Like, imagine that.
Yeah. Well, to go to the thing you brought up earlier about whether or not they're going to even move forward with DC stuff, this is interesting, is because they also just signed this new multi-year first look film deal with Matt Reeves, saying they want him to kind of be their guiding light for how they approach like Batman and DC properties. And so for those who don't know what that means, a first look film deal basically means anything he writes or is a creative force behind, Warner Brothers gets first dibs at it. No one gets to see it before them. Which is basically their way of saying we love Matt Reeves. We want to be a part of anything he works on going forward as possible, because the Batman was awesome. So
And a huge success for them
it,
financially and critically.
it was a big success. This thing, like when you look at the rough couple of years Warner Brothers Discovery and DC have had, like the Batman is currently like on the top shelf, because while yes, people love the Snyder cut, it's still kind of a blemish on their legacy because of the situation that led to it being a thing. So for them to put that kind of faith in Matt Reeves has me thinking, I don't think they're done with DC, but I think they're still trying to figure out what they want to do with it.
Well, just because they're done with DC doesn't mean they keep Batman or they don't keep Batman. I mean, look at Spider-Man, you know?
That's true. That's true. They could, but I will also say, if this ends up being a Spider-Man, Sony, Marvel kind of situation, people don't exactly like the Spider-Man situation with Sony. So I'm not sure if that's the model I would want to follow.
Well, that's also because their track record after Amazing Spider-Man has
It's
been
pretty
crap.
pretty bad. Oh,
But
Morbius exists.
well,
Oh man.
but I mean, you really think about it. Like, think about what DC, where Warner Brothers is doing right now. Okay, the guy who is the most successful in our DC properties, as far as critically and financial in the last several couple of years. Let's keep him around. We've lost Nolan. We need another fan favorite, genre favorite director, because Matt Reeves before the Batman was doing those 8 movies, which I've never seen, but people seem to love.
His
And
the two that he has done are incredible. And I
yeah,
am not a Planet of the Apes fan.
yeah, but I think that that's what it is you, as much as a first look helps Warner Brothers, it also helps him, because if he's getting a good chunk of change for the films he's doing, and he's like, "Hey, I just came up with this idea," and Warner Brothers is like, "Yeah, we're going to pay you to do that." I think that's that whole like, "Hey, they're going to do what they did with Nolan." Oh, you want to do the Prestige? We need you to come back and do the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do Interstellar? We need you to come back and do Dark Knight Rises. I mean, you do that with Matt Reeves. You're like, all right, look, you can do any movie you want between the Batman movies you make for us. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I think that's where you lock in somebody like that. And going forward, like I said, they could be like, hey, let's get rid of all the DC stuff, but let's keep Batman. And if you
Yeah.
have Matt Reeves for the next 10 years doing Batman movies, no one's going to care.
Yeah. No. Because when you look at, because you got to think about like the kind of check they had to write for him to sign off on something like this, like to say,
Yeah.
we want first dibs on anything you make. Like the amount of money you've got to promise to somebody for that is insane. And for a company that is struggling financially, which we are going to get into in our
Yeah.
last story here. But yeah, you've got a movie like The Batman, which I'm looking at the numbers right now, had a budget of approximately $185 million. Its box office was $770 million. So after, release costs and all that, it's still probably profited about $400 million, which is nice. It's a
Well,
nice chunk of change.
and the thing of it is you have to also look at like Warner Brothers over the last several years. They haven't really, the money can be there, but if nobody likes it, Warner Brothers gets mad. So with this
Yeah,
is the first property in a while where everybody liked it and everybody went to see it.
exactly. And not only that, but like I don't know what it's I'm trying to see if I can figure out what its streaming numbers were, but I know it was pretty high. Um, according to Samba TV, the film was streamed by 720,000 American households during its first day of release on HBO Max.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Samba TV reported by the end of the first week, it had been watched by 4.1 million American households. That was the higher than the viewership for nearly all day-to-date films released on HBO Max, and the second best for a film on the platform during its first week. Currently the number one is still Mortal Kombat from last year, but it beat it out with 4.3 million. So it wasn't like it beat it out by a lot, but also Mortal Kombat sucks. So everyone needs to stop watching that movie because it's really bad. Anyway, but yeah, this is a movie. The Batman crushed. Everyone has been saying ever since that first trailer, like, okay, Matt Reeves gets Batman in a way that only fans have gotten it in recent
Yeah.
years. So, but that takes me to what I want to get into last, because this was one of the last things that got announced, which is that so Warner Brothers Discovery has delayed certain films to 2023 because they only have enough money in their budget to release 2 quote unquote major films this year. Those films being Don't Worry, Darling and Black Adam. Shazam Fury of the Gods has now been pushed back to March 17th of next year, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom has been pushed back to Christmas of next year.
Sure, it has.
um, it's
I'm
just
just saying this text that has been painted on the wall. It's getting dry. It's getting
yeah.
really, really dry.
Well, and it kind of goes into, because there have been these additional reports coming in that and we've talked about this for a couple of weeks now, but there's been all these reports of like stuff from Michael Keaton's stuff that have been shot being removed and Ben Affleck coming in and shooting it. And yeah, I think this stuff's getting pushed back, because they need to save their money and see if they can get enough money in there to release these films. But number two is that I think they're still shooting and finishing up these Ben Affleck reshoots we've been hearing about so that he can replace whatever their plan was going forward with Michael Keaton.
Sure.
Well, and we still don't have any more information. This is the first week where none of this has to do with the Flash. So
yeah.
So count our blessings, I guess. We still don't have any more information on the Flash as far as what's going on with that. Ezra Miller issued that, we'll call it an apology, last week. I don't think he issued that at all. I think that came from his publicist. But
no, that was definitely we have to act like he said something so people will shut up for a little while.
Yeah, whatever. But just see what happens when you don't get on Twitter late at night, Matt. This is what you miss. It's a mess, man. It's a hot mess, and I don't know. I don't know what I'm just now. I'm trying to see if I can set it up on Twitter to where I can get notifications of anything about Warner Brothers and DC and all that, because it seems like if I look away from Twitter for even a minute, I'm just gonna miss something.
Yeah. I think you're right. I need to be on Twitter more. That's my takeaway from today's news reels here. I don't know, man. It just seems this seems on par, of course, with what Warner Brothers has done the past several years, which is like anytime the breeze changes, they change their plan.
Yeah.
And whatever happened with Batgirl, now the leans more into maybe it was something wrong with Keaton, but you've said it in the past. It's like the fact that they won't get ahead of anything, we have no idea. And I feel like you made a lot of stupid choices. People, the rats, leave a sinking ship, and now you have no money to do anything. And I don't know what they're doing, and I don't even know what is that other movie called.
I don't know. I never heard of it. It's probably just some other Oscar bait movie or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. I hadn't heard of it before. It said they listed it under their quote unquote like major release, and I'm like, what? I don't know what this other one is. So how major of a release could it be?
Yeah. No. So it's I'm just like, somebody is just losing bets left and right at Warner Brothers, because it just doesn't. It not only does it not make a lick of sense, it just doesn't seem like it's getting better. I don't know if bringing Ben Affleck back as Batman is going to fix whatever has happened. Like, that's why I say just clean slate it. Just be done. Like, you're, I know you like the movie, but like, to me, the difference between the two Justice League movies is they're just different colors of crap. Like, I don't, was the Snyder cut better than the theatrical release? I mean, anything would have been better than the theatrical release. Like, besides the Aquaman with the lasso scene, nothing in that movie I remember really. So I just don't know. It just seems like you're just stop spending money. Just release the things you've done. Let us judge them. Let us hate them, which is what we've seemed to have enjoyed doing over the past 7-8 years. And then just slate it out. Admit defeat. You're never going to catch other franchises that we won't name because we don't want to try and do the versus thing, but you're never going to catch anybody. Just clean slate it and go. Like, just go at this point. Ultimately, the biggest answer that they have that they won't do is give fucking Henry Cavill his own Superman movie. Like, why is that not the solution? That's what I don't get.
Yeah. That's what you go online. That's the only thing anybody wants. We just want more Henry Cavill as Superman because he's really good at it.
Yeah. And let him actually be Superman, not brooding Batman with a red outfit.
Well, yeah, we've had enough time pass where it's like we can, because like Man of Steel, okay, he's still figuring out how to be Superman. Like, we get that. BVS, the world is we've already seen over the course of 3 movies, the 3 movies being Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League, him learning to be Superman. Now we're past that. Let's just let him be Superman.
Yeah.
And I think that if anyone can crush that, it's going to be Henry Cavill, but he needs the chance.
Yeah. And that's where I just like switch Batman out, in and out. I don't care. Like, no matter what, at this point, no one's going to beat what Pattinson did. So just bring Henry Cavill back and let him be Superman. Let him be Superman. I don't want Shazam. I don't care about Black Adam. I don't care about any of these movies. I'm just sitting here going, look, if you're not going to do Superman, then do Nightwing. Like, everything else is crap.
Yeah. And hey, if you want to know how you can do Nightwing, you go listen to our episode about how to make Robin work in live action films, which was actually a lot of fun. I listened back to that one and I was like, you know what? We're smart. They should hire us.
One of us, probably you. I think your idea was better. As much fun as I had with mine, I was like, no, I think maybe he's right. You just skipped the Robin thing.
Either way, hire us. We'll write your movies for you.
Yeah. Use my casting. Use your story idea.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and dip out now, and we're gonna let you guys sit back and relax and enjoy this week's episode of We Are the Batman, which is our shot at providing a sequel to The Dark Knight Rises. Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are the Batman. I'm Mike.
And this is Matthew.
Man, first of all, I just want to say I've been having a blast doing this show.
Yes.
We've addressed some things I've thought about for a long time, come up with some new things I never thought about doing before. And it's been scratching my Batman itch, Matt. So
Yes.
I'm so glad we've been doing this. We're talking today about a movie that I think you and I both like more than a lot of people. I haven't heard a lot of hate for this movie, but it's definitely one that people seem to not like quite as much as others. And that's The Dark Knight Rises. We are giving this series it's a fantasy fourth movie, a sequel to The Dark Knight Rises, where we would have taken it if we had just the house money to do with what we will. And I think we should start off just by kind of going into that, like our thoughts on The Dark Knight Rises. And I'll start with you, Matt. Like how do you feel about the third movie in the Nolan trilogy?
I don't super hate it. I think it has some. I think we discussed it lightly, and I don't know if I really got to do my spiel. It just feels like a contract obligation in that I don't think he wanted to come back for a third one. And then when they finally got him to come back for a third one, they instantaneously go, oh, we're going to reboot the character anyway. So I feel like he didn't give a crap. And he was like, look, I'll make this as long as you let me make, what's the time when he did? In space. The time movie Nolan did.
Interstellar.
Yeah. Like, we'll let you do your wacky, crazy Interstellar movie if you do this third Batman movie. And he was like, fine, I'll do it. So it just feels like there's not as much thought. And you talked about before, like there were things he got rid of because he couldn't use it because it was from stuff that he and Heath Ledger discussed. They didn't want to do anything with the Joker because he had passed. So it's kind of more of a direct sequel to Batman Begins than it is The Dark Knight, which I think it's a good and bad thing. But I think like 40% of the movie is really cool, but there's so much that doesn't make any sense to me that I've never really gone back to it.
To get into the official behind the scenes of it all. So when just so people kind of know what we were playing with here. So Christopher Nolan, when he signed on to do Batman Begins, it was kind of this big sleeper hit. Nobody counted on it being as big as it was, and they asked him to come back and do a sequel for Batman Begins. Now, Christopher Nolan is not known for doing sequels. He's a one and done kind of guy. So he had basically told Warner Brothers, he's like, if I do 2, I'm going to do 3. So if I'm going to do a trilogy, I just basically want you guys to let me do the trilogy I want to make. And then they, with as big a hit as Batman Begins was, they said, yeah, sure, go nuts. And go nuts he did, because The Dark Knight still to this day reigns as one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. Hands down, anybody who says otherwise can fight me in the parking lot. I don't care. It was well established that he and Heath Ledger had started, because he was so blown away with how Heath Ledger was as the Joker, but also with his commitment to it, that, the scenes in The Dark Knight where the Joker is torturing the reporters. Like, he let Heath Ledger go and do those himself. Heath Ledger wrote those. Heath Ledger shot those with his hand cam. Those were all Heath Ledger. So Heath Ledger started coming to Christopher Nolan with ideas for the third movie, and they were spectacular. They already had the third movie pretty much written before they finished shooting The Dark Knight. And for those who don't know the story, it was basically shaping up to be kind of like what Arkham City wound up being, the video game. They were looking at having a return of the Joker and of Two-Face. Two-Face was going to have not actually died. It was all just a ruse. He was going to have been locked away in secret. There were going to be other villains in place as well, including the big bad was going to be Hugo Strange. And Heath Ledger had thrown the idea to Christopher Nolan of getting Robin Williams to play Hugo Strange, which I think would have been incredible.
Yes.
Then we get Heath Ledger's passing, and Christopher Nolan makes the difficult, albeit I think correct, decision to say, we're not doing anything that Heath wrote because I don't want to make this without him. It was his vision. I don't want to have to recast the Joker. So they threw all of that out. In fact, they threw it out to the point where they said, we just want the Dark Knight to kind of just stand on its own. So the third movie, we're going to have because if you watch the movie right now, they never mention the Joker. Yep. They never mention the Joker at all. They make it as little to do with the Dark Knight as possible and more as a sequel to Batman's legacy, starting from Batman Begins. That gets us the Dark Knight Rises. To me, it was a very good movie that simply fell short due to the fact that this was not Nolan's best ideas. They were his B ideas because he'd already used his A ideas in the script that never came to be. So, and also you're the sequel to The Dark Knight. You're not going to measure up. It's impossible. It's just not going to happen. So it's kind of like how Return of the Jedi had to follow Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back is an apex Star Wars movie. How do you follow that up? So it is what it is. The movie is what it is. It's still, it crushed at the box office. It was still a huge hit. Just the response was like, yeah, it's good. It's just not as good. What do you do? And also, yeah, Nolan was ready to be done. No one was really sure what was going on with DC at this point. The DCEU was a twinkle in Zack Snyder's eye at this point. So, but yeah, it is a cool idea to think about what could have been had they chosen to continue on with this story. Actually, something that's, and I mentioned this in a previous episode, but there was a fan whose name I cannot. It was someone on DeviantArt. And I'm trying to find out who the artist was, and I cannot for the life of me find it. I can't read the watermark that's on the comic that I have the image of, so I do apologize. But they came with like a fan comic. It's just 6 little panels of what could have been the continuation of this story. A panel is what happens with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, what happens with everyone else involved. And it's an interesting idea. And the idea is basically that, yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character continues to be, quote unquote, the new Batman, but he does his own modification of the suit to where it more closely resembles Nightwing than it does Batman.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you a link to this, Matt, on Facebook. I meant to do this before we started recording and I didn't. But it's an interesting concept, and you can read through each of the little 1-page sections they've got. But like, you see the idea of what they were going for the look on Joseph Gordon-Levitt's, we'll call it Nightwing suit. You see what I'm looking at?
Let me check it out.
Yeah, pull it up. It's a different take, but it works. The idea is basically that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, Robin John Blake, is actually Dick Grayson, who went into witness protection in the after his parents were killed by mob boss Anthony Zuko, and that's why he was in the what's the word, the orphanage under the name Robin John Blake. It was a fake name. protection, and that he just became a cop and all that stuff. Anyway, but yeah, do you see his suit that I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen it, and that was done a lot right after this movie. Is they turned
Yeah,
that what I call the Nolan motorcycle Batman suit into a Nightwing suit. There was
yeah,
dozens of fan art
and
of that outfit.
it's an interesting idea. It is an
Yes.
interesting idea. What I like also that this artist did was an idea for the Huntress. And what it is that the way that Bruce and Selena continued to survive after they, run off to the Italy cafe is they changed their names to Thomas and Irina Bertinelli. And they have a
Uh,
daughter named Helena who eventually finds out who her parents are, takes their equipment, mods the suit, becomes the Huntress. Okay, you know what? Points for originality. Huntress is not one of my favorite characters in DC, but again, points for originality. The one where this artist loses me is their idea for Robin, which is that
Talia survives.
Talia doesn't necessarily survive, but she was pregnant. Somehow she was like 5 months pregnant. Don't totally buy that. Somehow the baby survived. Don't totally buy that. But the baby was taken and raised by the remains of the League of Assassins, becomes Robin, goes to Gotham, is taken in by Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Batman Nightwing combo. Don't love it. Sure. Okay, fine. The next one they have is an idea for how Harley Quinn comes to be, because it's never put into the movies what happened to Joker after Dark Knight. The rumor is that he was just basically being held in Arkham, and so kind of a play on the Dark Knight Returns. Dr. Harleen Quinzel is attending to him, and when the Joker hears word through the news that Batman died and has been replaced, as he goes kind of catatonic, and his attending physician, Harley Quinn, basically grows attached to him. She snaps, becomes Harley Quinn. Okay, fine, I can roll with that. That's fine. The two that I think are actually pretty interesting, though, are what happens to Gordon's kids, because you got to figure that the events of the Dark Knight would probably mess up at least the son, who was almost killed
Yeah.
in the Dark Knight. And so the idea is that, like, when nobody was looking, he picked up Harvey Dent's coin, and that the whole thing kind of just left him scarred and basically nuts from it, and that he eventually just kind of becomes the next Two-Face, like uses the coin to scar up his face and stuff. He just kind of becomes a psychopath and becomes the next Two-Face. I don't hate that idea. I think that's an interesting idea, to say the least. The other one is their idea for how Batgirl could have worked, which is basically she grows up and joins the police department, kind of follows in her father's footsteps, takes the police riot gear and basically mods it to be Batgirl.
I think that's a cool idea. I like that.
I think it's a neat idea. So all of these are actually very neat ideas for what could have been the continuation of that story. I'm only going to lightly borrow from one of these. The other five can go away as far as I'm concerned, because again, they're all neat. But Huntress, Robin, Batgirl, Two-Face, and Harley Quinn. I'm sorry, I'm keeping two of these. So Huntress, Robin, Harley Quinn, and Two-Face can all go away. Batman and Batgirl are the only ones that I'm going to keep around, and I'm gonna do a variation of these, to say the least. But I've talked for quite a bit of time, so Matt, let's go to you. And how are you wanting to approach a potential sequel to the Dark Knight Rises?
Sure. I think what I surprisingly enough, I'm not leaning into Joseph Gordon-Levitt becoming Dick Grayson / Nightwing. I
Okay.
think they did a good enough job in my mind of kind of making this character different, even though the stupid tacked on Robin thing was dumb.
Yeah.
But I would just have it be that he does become Batman. But I think what I would do, and this is maybe just me being me, because I don't like all black suited Batman, is have him maybe mix in the blue and the gray so that he can operate during the day and not look ridiculous. is kind of what I would do with that particular character, and have it be where he's a little more, well, not a little more open, but that he would be working with the cops, but just he would change the costume to be his own, and because he's not exactly a super BA fighter um, that that Bruce Wayne was, at least at the end of the movie. So maybe
Mhm.
even he goes back to the original suit and changes the color of the suit. So he's not wearing the motorcycle Batman suit. He's wearing the original super 100% bulletproof one as he's progressing through his abilities. But then, like I said, I think I'd have him go a little more gray, get out of the all black. And then I have a story. Do we want to get into the stories yet and the recasting, or do you want to just keep going with just this part?
Let's do broad strokes to start off with. We'll get into
Okay.
the nuts and bolts in a minute.
Okay. But what I would do is, because he's new and because he's not sure if anybody's going to buy him as the quote unquote real Batman, is he's a little more reclusive. He stays in the dark. It's a myth because people generally believe Batman died.
Mhm.
And then he starts showing up, and then it's like, oh, okay, that's what he's doing, or is he even around? And he kind of plays more into the urban myth of a Batman than the public figure. And then as he becomes better at the job, maybe then he starts working with Gordon. Because the other thing too is, like, Gordon would instantaneously know
Right.
it's him, so I think he would kind of go more along that route for the beginning of the film. And that's
Oh,
kind of my
yeah,
thing. I have other characters I want to do that continue to do with more my plot of what I would do as the story,
sure.
but that is what I would do with his character. Is he changes the bat suit, like I said, maybe it goes back to the original one to make up for his lack of fighting ability, and you see more of, like, him leaning and maybe get in more into the detective, not so much the fighter, maybe more stealthy, so it's not, I'm going to plow through bad guys and do headbutts like the Christian Bale Batman, but more like I'm going to sneak around and take him out with gadgets and stuff.
Okay. I actually think we're a little bit more on the same page than maybe we initially thought. I think we definitely have some differences. But I think that we're kind of leaning towards sort of the same approach.
Yeah.
So the way I kind of want to do mine is, um, you know, John Blake, Joseph Gordon-Levitt still comes back. And initially, like, he finds out that he's basically been gifted the Batcave and all this stuff. But his whole thing is that he doesn't feel like he can live up yet. Like he's like I'm not Batman. He's like I like what he stood for. I'm not Batman. And so I think he initially kind of rejects it and just kind of tries to uh be a because he leaves throws his badge away at the end of Dark Knight Rises. So I think he's moving away from being a cop, and I think he instead is trying to sort of instill change from a social aspect. Maybe see him messing around with local politics, that kind of thing, or working directly with the children's home that gets moved into a Wayne Manor. Just trying to booster that. But ultimately, I think that this needs to still be very much a comic book movie. There needs to be some kind of inducing threat. Because what I ultimately want to have happen with this movie is the return of Christian Bale's Batman, is to have
Gotcha.
him come back. Um, I'm actually cool. I'm cool with the fact that he and Selena are living under this fake name since they are in Italy. Sure, let's have it be Bertinelli, and that's funny and that's adorable. Huntress is not going to be in this movie. Absolutely not. It's just a nice wink and a nod. Oh, ha ha! Here's this fake name that he's using, and he's living out on his own. But yeah. So some kind of threat, and I'm going to get into the threat in a little bit here. Some kind of threat exists that starts sparking John Blake to, okay, maybe we do need a Batman of some kind. So maybe he reaches out to Michael Caine and to Michael Caine's Alfred, who in touch also puts him in touch with Lucius Fox, and they're kind of there to help. Okay, like if we need a Batman, and maybe Alfred goes back to the cafe in Italy and approaches Bruce, and Bruce is like, no, I'm done. absolutely not. Please go away. So he's like, okay, fine. So we got to help this kid. Um, Things happen. He does kind of, he takes the bat suit, modifies it in his own way, and also other things. But yeah, so basically, I want the story to be about John Blake embracing who he is. Yeah, I'm gonna roll with the whole he was Dick Grayson, but was in witness protection, because I do think that makes his story a bit more interesting, at least, other than just some random orphan who
Yeah.
just is a Batman fan. Like, let's give him a reason, and this can be where we find out that, like, yeah, like, this was my name. I changed it because of witness protection, yada yada yada. Zuko, whatever. Maybe Zuko comes back in this to be as part of the inciting incident that brings everything kind of together. But that's kind of what I want to go with, is the story of, like, John Blake / Dick Grayson becoming this other hero, and also bringing back some kind of inciting incident that causes a need for a Batman to re-arise.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think at but now I'm gonna say at best, that sounds weird, but like given how he does figure out Bruce Wayne as Batman, I'd almost say he's more like Tim Drake, because that's what Tim Drake did.
It is, and yeah. So again, just kind of playing with it a little
Yeah.
bit, but ultimately, for what I want to do here, yeah, I don't. Again, I know I'm cheating a little bit by pulling some inspiration from this fan comic. And again, I wish I had the artist's name to credit, because the art is stellar. I just
Yes.
found it on DeviantArt. So if I do find that out before we publish this episode, I will edit it in or put it in the notes or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, I do think ultimately, because the story of Batman, we've seen the telling of a Batman story before, where there always needs to be a Batman in Gotham City. The animated series of The Batman did a take on this. Batman Beyond did a take on this. There always needs to be a Batman. And so I like the idea of telling that story.
Yeah. No, and I think I think with mine, what I would do is I would just like leave Bruce out of it and Alfred. But I think what I would do is the moment he starts being active, John Blake as Batman, Lucius Fox shows up in the Batcave and is like, all right, who the hell are you? And he then becomes his kind of quote unquote Alfred, and is working with John Blake to not mentor him per se, but kind of help him survive his first year or two as Batman by helping him with the gadgets and such.
So the main reason I would want to have Alfred be involved is because I think John Blake's going to understand that. I think he's going to feel like he doesn't want to do this without Alfred's blessing.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason I would want him involved. And then, yeah, for what I'm setting up, and when I get into the nuts and bolts of it all, maybe why I want Bruce Wayne to come back, it'll make a bit more sense. But yeah, I really like that idea of using this as an opportunity to just, again, hammer in that idea of Gotham needing a Batman, but also, the Dark Knight trilogy does kind of exist in its own little bubble of just Gotham. There's not a lot of world building that takes place in these movies,
Correct.
which is fine. They're just very self-contained, and that's totally fine. But this creates a way to world build just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So,
yeah, I think it'd be cool.
So let's get into some nuts and bolts here, man. Let's talk. Do you want to go actors first, or do you want to go actors and characters, or do you want to go story first?
I mean, we could do both. I don't know.
Well, let's do this. Let's go characters / actors, because I told you I don't have actors chosen just because I don't.
Yeah.
It's my goddamn show. I can do whatever I want. So let's go into actors / characters. We would want to do in our sequels for The Dark Knight Rises, Matt.
Sure. I'm pulling in two characters, and they very much lead into my story. Anarchy is one of the characters I'm going to be pulling in, but I'm going to gender swap him
Okay.
and make Anarchy a girl, and I'm going to cast Rose Byrne to be Anarchy.
Oh, interesting.
And get into. I don't want to go too far into it just yet, but the idea is that Batman was gone for 6 years, but that's because all crime was gone.
Right.
Then he returns, and then he dies. So there's definitely like an opportunity for somebody to come in here and fix things. And what you have now is this person, Anarchy, coming into like, oh wow, you guys, even the cops were messed up in this town. I need to fix that.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm gonna have Jean Paul Valley in the movie.
Why do I know that name?
That is Azrael.
Oh, okay.
Um, and it's going to go along into my story as well. And he is going to be played by an up and coming actor right all out of Attack the Block, John Boyega.
Oh, nice pull.
Because
Nice
this movie
pull.
is going to be 2014, 2015. He hasn't done
Yeah.
Star Wars yet, but he is phenomenal in Attack the Block. And
He's
the
so good in Attack
storyline I have, I think he will be perfect for.
No, dude, for Azrael, John Boyega is a good pull. That's a great pull. Hell yeah, dude.
It's not my first
Oh,
barbecue. My previous podcast was nothing but recasting.
no, I know, but yo, that is that mwah, no, that is great. That's so good. Man, I don't even want to do mine now. That's too good. Dude, that pick right there is better than anything else I have planned. That's great. No, I love it. But please continue.
So, if you want, do you want me to get into the bit of the story? I have broad strokes. It's not very in depth.
Let me throw my characters at you
Yeah,
real quick.
you go characters go.
So because I do have I just now decided on a couple pieces of casting. Um,
John Boyega and Rose Byrne.
John Boyega and Rose Byrne. No, they hit me. So the two villains I had in mind for this were the Riddler and Harley Quinn. Okay,
Okay.
here's how. The Riddler I wanted to use was something akin to like what they did in the Batman, not the movie, but the animated series.
Yes.
The one who's kind of like trippy, almost anime style, like in terms of like bombing shit.
Yeah.
But I wanted his style to be more comic book animated series, like rocking the suit and a bowler hat and a cane, but just being kind of just this cerebral genius arsonist almost, like this, just with bombs and kind of that classic Riddler take, like he is threatening bombs for money, that kind of thing, and giving everyone a run around as far as riddles go. And it just clicked with me who I would want to be this version of the Riddler, especially because he was pretty popular at the time, and that is Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes. No, I think that makes perfect sense.
Give me Neil Patrick Harris in a not a lime green suit, but like a kind of like a dark, almost like olive green suit, and just getting giddy with raking the cops over the coals with riddles.
Well, see, even with him, all you really need to do is give him a lab coat and goggles and make the lab coat green.
I am 100% in fan of that because that means Dr. Horrible, and I love everything to do with Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. So give me that. And then as far as Harley Quinn goes, and this is an idea that has circled the internet a couple of times, but I think this would be a great chance to do it, and that is to get Tara Strong to play her live action.
I wouldn't be mad about that. She's a very attractive woman.
She is, and she does the voice of Harley Quinn so well. I mean, just so freaking well. I mean, she's so good. I know Arlene Sorkin is the OG, and I love Arlene Sorkin. I really do. But like the fact that Tara Strong, like I go back to, there's this video from a Comic-Con one year of Tara Strong and Mark Hamill sitting together, and they're both voicing in character, and it's super adorable and funny, and I love it. But like Tara Strong, like I want to see her cosplay as Harley Quinn, first of all, just for obvious reasons. But
She has.
I need to find that then. Anyway, that's gonna be my new phone background. But no, she is so good as the voice of Harley Quinn. and think that this would be a great chance for her because to play it. The other character I would have involved is Batgirl. I don't have an idea yet for who I want in 2014 for who I think could pull off Batgirl. Um, it's hard to think that far back. I mean, maybe 2014. I don't know. Maybe like a younger Jessica Chastain or Bryce Dallas Howard. They're kind of my go-tos for redheads. But I mean, I don't know. That's a hard. That was maybe an Emma Stone.
Yeah.
No, I don't think 2014. She wasn't that old, but I don't know. There's a couple different ways you could take it. But definitely would want to have Batgirl. But yeah, the two villains I'd have would be the Riddler and Harley Quinn. And I'm just now, as we record this, deciding I want NPH as the Riddler and Tara Strong to play a live action version of Harley Quinn in this. So those are but then everybody, I would still have Joseph Gordon-Levitt come back. Like I said, Christian Bale would come back. I don't think I'd have Anne Hathaway come back, if maybe for nothing else than just as a quick cameo, but I wouldn't have Catwoman involved in the story. And then Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman would come back. And did I say Gary Oldman, but also Gary Oldman? So.
I think I'm the same. Like, well, and I don't know if I would bring Alfred. I would just have Lucius Fox play that role, just because, in my opinion, at the end of Dark Knight Rises, the Waynes, or Bruce Wayne and Alfred, are no longer in Gotham. That's kind of how I took the end of that movie, is that they're not there anymore. So
I have a hard time arguing against that too. Just for the story I'm going to tell, yes, I need Alfred. I need Alfred and Bruce Wayne and Christian Bale to be in there. But
no, so I think it makes sense.
Let's get your story, man. I know you said you got mostly broad stroke stuff, but let's any like story plot details you'd want to throw at me here.
I mean, the big thing, what I would do is, like I said, I would play the he's not sure he's ready to full on be Batman as far as like publicly, but he's fighting crime in the shadows, doing his thing. He's like I said, maybe gone back to the original suit, changed the coloring up a bit, still Batman, but not, completely black clad. And then what happens is in this vacuum, so it's maybe 6 months after the quote unquote death of Batman, there's another guy named John Palm Valley that's like, we need a Batman. We know we need a Batman, but I'm not Batman. So I'm going to be this other character named Azrael, or whatever he wants to name him. And he looks enough like Batman that people start thinking, oh, it's Batman. But like in the comic, Azrael is very violent. Mm-hmm. Very, very violent. So what starts happening is Batman, the new Batman. So there's a rumblings of a new Batman, and then this other new Batman, Azrael, comes out and is straight on public, isn't hiding, is violent. So now he starts getting the credit for the stuff that John Blake is doing as actual quote unquote Batman. Mm-hmm. While this is all going on, Anarchy shows up and just starts running havoc with Gotham. Messing with technology, outing other secrets, letting things be known of what was known, maybe even revealing that Bruce Wayne was Batman. I don't know if I would go that far, but just kind of plummeting Gotham into, just anarchy, for lack of a better term, and having the people turn against the cops and not sure what to do and distrusting everybody, everything that's going on. And it's because of this situation that John Blake as Batman has to step out of the shadows, has to literally come forward and say, no, I am Batman. I am going to save Gotham City. And he almost has to fight for supremacy of Gotham from this guy who is willing to do more than he's willing to do and is more feared by the criminal element than he is, at the same time trying to figure out how to stop anarchy from destroying the city. And luckily for him, Lucius Fox is helping him, but it's just is he even able to go toe-to-toe with Azrael? Like I said, we haven't established if he's a good fighter or not. I mean, he's been training, but maybe he's got to figure out a different way to defeat him. And similar to what happened at the end of Nightfall, is he just has to talk to him. Dude, this isn't the way. You're trying to be Batman. Batman didn't go around killing people. Batman wasn't murdering people. Batman wasn't going to the level you are. You need to pull it back and become a beacon of hope, not the angel of death. And I don't know if they'll team up at the end to take down Anarchy, but then at that point he's got to defeat Anarchy at the same time. And Anarchy could almost even be feeding Azrael bad information to make him kill the wrong people. But
Yeah.
that's kind of my thing of like, again, that whole, you've got to come out of the shadows as Batman and actually be a leader of the city, a symbol for the city, which of course Lucius Fox would be part of that mentor of like, look, Bruce Wayne told you to be Batman because there needs to be a Batman, but not a vigilante. We need a
Yeah.
symbol. We need something to rise to. That was the point of Batman, not to quote unquote fight crime and fisticuffs everybody in the city that was doing wrong, but to give people something to be hopeful for.
No, that's a great take on it. Absolutely. It makes, I mean, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. The idea of like, look, I operated like this for this many years and it was effective, but it wasn't a solution because there was still that idea of, operating outside of, we see a little bit of that in Matt Reeves, the Batman, that idea of he was operating as an agent of vengeance, not an agent of justice.
Yeah.
And so that's what he needs the next Batman to be.
Yeah. So
No, it's a great take.
that's kind of my thing. And I think it would, it gives you enough opportunity for action, gives you enough opportunity for, fighting between Azrael and the new Batman, for the Anarchy situation. Like, I think it across the board will give you everything you need to make fun and an exciting Batman movie.
No, it definitely, yeah. I would watch this. I would absolutely watch this. Mine's a little different. So mine is the take on it that I would have is, you know, John Blake's just trying to just be this this public figure, this outstanding citizen. The Riddler starts popping up and starts, messing with stuff and blowing stuff up and stealing from people. And what ends up happening is he starts getting in the news, he starts getting compared to the Joker a lot. People start comparing him to the Joker because of the way he messes with people, and even his name, the Riddler, sounds like the Joker, and they just, it starts, and what ends up happening is what we have is forgive me for what the sin I'm about to commit is we have basically, we see the Joker in Arkham Asylum, never from the front. It's a body double from behind with the hair and the makeup. Um, and we know that, and we always, what we always end up seeing is his attending a psychiatric physician, Dr. Harley Quinn, noticing that, like, ever since Batman's been gone, again, I'm pulling from the Dark Knight Returns here. Ever since Batman's been gone, he's been basically catatonic. It broke him. And that hearing that there's this villain that's back, that's being compared to the Joker, it's making him kind of seem to react like he just seems very uneasy and very tense. And it's pissing off Dr. Harleen Quinzel, who has, again, kind of got this like Florence Nightingale syndrome thing going on, as opposed to, because it takes away the Stockholm syndrome side of things.
Yeah.
It's no longer she's falling in love with her abuser, she's falling in love with her patient.
Yeah.
And that leads her to say, well, this guy's no Joker. If anyone knows the Joker, how to be a Joker, it's me. And that leads to her becoming basically this female Joker, Harley Quinn. And the two of them are it basically turns into a version of a gang war.
Yeah.
It turns into a version of a gang war. It's basically these two sides are warring for control of Gotham City. And you find that a lot of the Riddler's financial backing is coming from a new mob boss in town, and that is Tony Zuko. Tony Zuko, yeah, Tony Zuko is back, and that's ultimately what has John Blake, the formerly known Richard Grayson, say, "Okay, enough's enough," and starts wanting to, he seeks out because I remember he's working with the orphaned youth who are housed in Wayne Manor. What's below Wayne Manor? The Bat Cave that Batman gave him instructions on how to access. See where I'm going with this?
Oh yeah, I got it. I'm going. Let's go. Keep going. Keep
So
going.
while all this is going on, he seeks out Lucius. He's not doesn't seek out Lucius Sauce, but he's trying to seek out how to make the tech work because he hasn't really spent any time trying to figure it out since he got it. And Alfred, catches Alfred. I have is still in Gotham, and simply just because they say that like everything gets left to Alfred, the house gets turned into this home. And Alfred just kind of still helps because to him he can't leave the home. He can't leave Wayne Manor. That's the only place he's ever known. So he's stayed on with John to help him just kind of run the place and help take care of these because Alfred's good at that kind of thing. And gives them tours of the grounds and helps teach them and things like that. So he finds out that John Blake, Richard Grayson is thinking is looking to become this hero again, and ultimately tries to talk him out of it because he's like, because they've become close over these years, and he's like, I already saw what this could do to one, you know, surrogate son. I don't want to see it happen to another. And he's like, you don't know what you're doing. At least Bruce Wayne had training and knowledge. And he's like, well, Bruce Wayne's, as far as John knows, Bruce Wayne's dead. Alfred hasn't told anybody that he's still alive. He's respecting that secret or whatever. So Alfred reaches out to Bruce and says, you need to come back. You need to either come back and deal with this, or you need to come back and teach him what he needs to know so he can. Because like you left him a cave full of gadgets and didn't teach him how to use any of them.
Yeah. You left him a loaded gun, but didn't teach him how to shoot it.
Yeah. And Bruce refuses. He's like, no, I'm done. He's like, I have a new name. I have a new life. I'm not, no, like, I can't do it. I can't come back, So, John Blake takes the suit. So what ends up happening is Alfred then reaches out to Lucius and says, can you at least help him not kill himself with the exploding batarang place? So Lucius reaches out because remember, Bruce fixed the autopilot on the Bat before he died. That's kind of how we know that, oh, maybe he actually did survive. So we have it to where John Blake's version of Batman, at first he just puts on the suit. He just puts on the suit and just goes out and tries to take something on and ends up just getting his ass handed to him. Gets rescued by an autopiloted the Bat. And it autopilots him back to the Bat Cave, and there waiting for him is Lucius Fox.
Yeah.
Who's like, okay, he's like, you're not going to do this by just trying to do what Bruce did. You've got to do it your own way. Or you're going to get lost in all of this. And so that's where we get the montage, which I now have You're gonna need a montage of him, kind of like we had in Batman Begins, building his new arsenal and modifying the suit to have it kind of like what you were alluding to. It's not all black. There's black and dark gray and blue and yellow, and it more closely resembles a Nightwing suit. Changes the mask so it's not the Bat mask with the pointed ears. It's more. It's not a domino mask either. It just changes the mask in some way. I can picture it better in my head than I can describe it to you. And just kind of makes things more fit to his style and how he would want to do things. Maybe there's a scene earlier in the movie where he, is fighting off some muggers and he gets a hold of like a lead pipe or something, which, is planting the seeds for him using like the stick, what are they called? The
Collie sticks or Eskrima.
Eskrima sticks. Yeah. And so, we get the montage of him putting his shit together. And then while this has been going on, our kind of B plot is, because at the end of Dark Knight Rises, they talk about how Gordon's wife left with the kids and they went to move him to Cleveland and all that. So we get it to where like his daughter his kids or maybe even just his daughter is with him or staying with him. She's an older teenager, and yeah, she's in the slow process of becoming Batgirl / Oracle. Basically, she's a computer nerd, a tech nerd. She's a big Batman stan, and so she likes to sneak. When her dad's like leaving to sneak off to do Batman things, she like follows him, and he doesn't know it. Stuff like that. Again, just kind of planting the seeds for the idea of a Batgirl. And so the movie kind of progresses from there. It's John Blake's Nightwing Batman hybrid trying to, slowly starting to get his bearings about him. Alfred, comes back and gives him his blessing, basically saying like, you're doing your own thing. You're operating in a way that I wish Bruce had done it, to where he's not necessarily getting himself killed constantly. You're doing things kind of more in the light than he ever did. And it eventually leads to things get really out of hand, especially because like people, Alfred and Lucius find out that Zuko, the story about Tony Zuko, and they're worried he's going to get too in over his head or get too emotional about it and not think straight. And then ultimately, what ends up happening is Bruce Wayne does come back, suits up as Batman, and we get to have this cool fight of the two of them fighting together. And then what we've seen during this B plot stuff with Barbara Gordon is that like when she would go with her dad to police headquarters, she would basically like steal and sneak like police equipment and stuff. Like, so she's got like bulletproof vest and just some little things like that she's been kind of putting together on her own when her dad's not around. And we have her kind of show up at one point in there. She kind of hacks into like a Batman's John Blake's comms and is like helping talking a la Oracle, talk him through some things. Again, we're just building out this Bat family lore at this point. And so because she's kind of been building this Bat suit in behind, maybe she gets to like help at one point, like John Blake's Nightwing is like stuck in the police station trying to get out of there, and she puts on this like SWAT looking suit to help sneak him out, and she holds on to it, and then she gets to kind of talk to him and be his oracle for the rest of the movie, that kind of thing. So and it ultimately ends with Batman being back in Gotham, seeing him up on a rooftop standing next to Nightwing, and as they get ready to jump off the roof and go fight some crime, you can hear them say like in their headset like Oracle, are you there? And you hear Barbara's voice chime in like, I'm here, guys, and then so on and so forth, and then credits roll.
I like it. So you definitely want to get the duo back.
I do. I really do, because I think that that's something that we've been missing since Batman and Robin flubbed it so hard.
Yes.
And I think that, again, kind of like my idea that I had for how to make Robin work in film, we talked about on the last episode, is you kind of got to just bypass Robin in general. Like the fact that he's going by the fake name Robin, cool, that's as much as you get. Let's just have him go straight to wanting to be his own hero inspired by Batman, but that's not a Batman clone. And that's where you get Nightwing.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think it's cool.
So yeah, so those are what would you call yours, by the way?
I don't know.
Oh, I know mine.
The Batman Out of the Shadows.
Lame.
Or I don't know. Like, 'cause I think what they do: Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, Shadow of the Dark Knight. I don't know. You know me. I'm not good at the titles per se.
So I have
or just call it, the Dark Knight Anarchy.
That's not bad. I have two. One is to call it Legacy of the Dark Knight, because that's kind of what it is. My other thought was that because that ultimately this story is about Gotham City, and the fact that what it needs would be to call the movie Gotham City.
I just thought of something. Batman Reborn. There we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Or
there's
Rebirth.
a lot of
Rebirth. Take it from the comics. Batman Rebirth.
there's a lot of different ways you could take this ultimately.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think we've come up with two pretty good ideas for how to pitch a part 4 of the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy.
Definitely. I think this is. I mean, yeah, it would be fun to come back to this world. I mean, that I'm aware of. Joseph Gordon-Levitt hasn't been involved in any other kind of superhero thing. I know he was close to being Sandman, right?
Yeah, he was almost Sandman. That back when that first project was getting tossed around. Outside of that, I'm pulling up his filmography here.
He's done sci-fi and he's done other things, but he's never done.
Well, he was in Sin City too, but that's really it.
Crappy movie, but
yeah, it's not great. It's not the first one. He's done some voice work for a couple of Star Wars things, but yeah. Other than that, like I said, he was really dead set on that first Sandman project that ultimately didn't go anywhere until this newest one came out. But he has nothing to do with the Netflix one.
He has nothing to do with any other DC property, nothing to do with any other Marvel property. So
no,
I mean, let's do it.
Yeah, man. And we'll be doing our review of the Sandman here. Matt is currently watching it, so as soon as he is finished watching it, we will get our review out to you guys. For that, in the meantime, please by all means feel free to let us know how much you hate our ideas for a potential 4th Dark Knight movie and how much we've completely missed the point of everything. You can let us know on Twitter at We Are the Batman, or you can find me at Mr. Mike Shea.
Or get at me at Mr. J Ninja.
And until then, we will see you guys on the next episode of We Are the Batman. Same bat time, same bat podcast channel.
See you next time.